All right, welcome everybody. Thomas Dimitrovich here, and I am traveling afar and abroad. I believe that I have, yes, I do. We are here on IAEI News Live, and we're going to talk about exceptions today. So I'm remote today. I am live. I'm in Bogota, Colombia, South America. I'm using the different interface on the platform to make sure that we can be more interactive, because I want to talk about exceptions. And this was stimulated from an email that I received from a very educated individual who said there's some confusion around what we did in 210.8 with some exceptions. So we are going to talk about exceptions and the NEC, and it all starts now. All right, so, I gotta log in to get my chats. Hold on. Let me log in. Doggone, now bicycles. I have to select all the bicycles. Don't you love this? That's a bicycle, that's a bicycle, that's a bicycle. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna hit verify. It says loading, so I don't know. All right, so I'm finally into the chats. I can see chats. We've got some people online. So, all right, Thomas Dimitrovich here. And I hope you are all doing well. As you could tell, I am traveling. And I tell you what, it was a journey getting here. Very long flight, 5.5 hours. I flew through Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, with my friend James Mercer. He is out of Austin, Texas. And James, great guy. There are just some people you meet that are great mentors, and James is one of those for me. So I enjoyed traveling with him, although he was able to fly first class and I couldn't. So I was stuck in row 9. All right, so let's talk about some exceptions. The stimulus for this IAEI News Live was around a change that we made during the 2023 code cycle. So let me know if you guys can hear me or not. Let's get the chat going. I'm not seeing any chats yet, so it could be just because of how I dialed in. I'm closing some things here. I got TerraView open. Oh my goodness, I've got so many things open right now. It is hilarious. So how do I go? Let me go to Live Studio. There it is. I am live. All right, let me look at the chat over there. Here we go. So there we go. Hello there, exceptions. Get a thumbs up. Amen. Yep, we can hear you. Thank you, Laurel. Hey, Nihad, there you are. So I'm wondering why I am not seeing those chats in my restream. Oh, there you are. All right, loud and clear. There we go. So we'll be doing this. So I can put the chats down here again. So there's Nihad. There's Laurel. Thank you for joining in, Laurel, in Omaha. Hopefully Robert from Omaha is doing well too. So, all right. So there's Freddie B. Freddie B in the house. Thank you. Okay. So now I know that there are human beings on the other side of this camera. You know, nothing is more awkward. Did you ever try it? This is really weird. When you're talking to an inanimate object, a camera, and you have to talk to that camera as if there's somebody standing there, and you have no idea how important the chats are for me to be able to make this a conversation. So anyway, so I had a discussion with an individual via email, and Nihad, you were on those emails, where the question came up in 210.8. If you recall, you know what I can do? Let me try that. Oh, Restream. I'm in Restream. I can invite a guest. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to see if I can do this. Paste. How do I paste? Paste and go. Paste and go. So the email came through, and if you recall, in 210.8, we had iPad join stream. We had a. Oh man, that was not good. How do I stop my audio? There we go. Nope. I muted this. The host has muted my mic. There we go. That wasn't it. Anyway, so this is not working for me. I have to turn this off. I was going to try to share my screen. Share screen. There we go. Unable to share screen. Okay, so I can't. So I'm going to log off of that. I thought I could share my iPad screen, but I can't. Todd, Dan. So Dan, there we go. Dan says, imagine being a mainstream media news anchor. I know. I don't know how they do that, Dan. I just don't know how they do it. So if you recall in 210.8, we had an exception, and it was in basements. If you go to your NFPA link and go to the 2020 National Electrical Code. If you open up the 2020 National Electrical Code and go to 210.8, there was an exception under basements that said a receptacle supplying only a permanently installed fire alarm or burglar alarm system shall not be required to have ground fault circuit interrupter protection. So Todd Stites, hello from afar. Good to see you, and thanks for joining us, Todd. So the discussion that we had on, and then there's an informational note that says, see 760.41b and 760.121b for power supply requirements for fire alarm systems. So during the 2023 cycle, we looked at that and said, look, $760 covers fire alarm systems. And if you looked at 760.41b, it says the branch circuit supplying the fire alarm equipment shall supply no other loads. The location of the branch circuit overcurrent protected device shall be permanently identified at the fire alarm control unit. The circuit disconnecting means shall have red identification, shall be accessible only to qualified personnel, and shall be identified as, in quotes, the fire alarm circuit. The red identification shall not damage the overcurrent protective devices or obscure the manufacturer's markings. And it says this branch circuit shall not be supplied through ground fault circuit interrupters or arc fault circuit interrupters. Well, what we said was in 210.8, that exception, which is only under basements, there's two issues going on here. One is the exception is only under basements. So if you think about it, the basement receptacles, because it's in 210.8a, if you have a fire alarm system that is plugged into a receptacle in the basement, we said you don't want to GFCI protect that receptacle. But that exception is already in chapter 7 in 760, just as I read, but it's not written as an exception. It's written as positive language. There we go. Yummy Fudge is in the house. West Dessert in Utah. I love it. So, and you're right. So Yummy Fudge says the scope is really important. So when you look at 760, and remember, scope is important, and also Article 90, which tells us that 1 through 4 apply generally, and 1 through 8 can modify 1 through 4. So I can have this requirement in Chapter 7 that basically says the branch circuit, this fire alarm system cannot be supplied through a GFCI, which covers receptacles and hardwired. So I don't need the exception in 210.8a under basements, but why just basements? Think about that. Think about the conflict, the correlation issue that we have. What if you have, remember, we have in 210.8a, we have laundry areas. Let's say that your burglar alarm system was fed from a panel that was in your laundry area. Or not a panel that was in the laundry area, a receptacle that is in the laundry area. Let's say that there's a dedicated receptacle for your fire alarm system in the laundry area. You don't have an exception. And then what they would do is say, oh, well, Tom, we would go back to 760 because 760 gives you the exception, but it's written in positive language. Okay. Now, if you're in Texas and places where they don't have basements, well, you're basically without an exception, because the exception for a burglar or for a burglar alarm system and a fire alarm system, we're talking fire alarms right now, only applied when the receptacle was in the basement. But we expanded to the receptacles also in laundry areas, yet you don't have an exception. What happens if it's in your garage? You don't have the exception. What happens if it's outdoors? You don't have the exception. There's a lot of places in the code where we have GFCI requirements. Kitchen. If you had your fire alarm system was plugged into a receptacle in the kitchen, you don't have the exception. So we recognized that we needed to expand the exception because it wasn't, the fact that you had an exception for fire alarm systems wasn't dependent upon the location of the receptacle. It doesn't matter where you're plugging it in. If there's a GFCI requirement for a receptacle in whatever room or area that you want to plug that doggone thing into, you need to be able to meet the requirements in 760. So we just removed it. We removed that exception. You know what, Yummy Fudge? Blame it on autocorrect. That's what I do. Just blame it on autocorrect. And here, you know what? I had another discussion with somebody. Who was it? Robert from Omaha. So Robert and I were texting each other, and I'm telling you what, him and autocorrect do not get along. Okay. So here is my thought, Yummy Fudge. I think that autocorrect was created by cell phone companies because when you pay per text like this, if you pay per text, if autocorrect screws it up, it's like 1, 2, 3 or more texts to fix the autocorrect. And that's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So I have a theory. I guess you got to follow the money. But my theory is, and it's not proven, someone's making money on all those corrected texts. So Yummy Fudge says fire alarm systems should have their own section in that article. So Yummy Fudge, are you talking in 210.8? Because if you go back to 760, 760.41b, and then 760.121b, let's go to 760. I'm going to go to chapter 7. And I know all of you have your codebook open or your NFPA link. 760 is fire alarm systems. This article covers the installation of wiring and equipment of fire alarm systems, including all circuits controlled and powered by the fire alarm system. Now, you know what? Yummy fudge. So fire alarm systems is and it's a system. So it's not just a single unit like an individual component, right? So it is a system. Like Article 555 has marinas and things like that, which are larger systems. So in 760, they tell you not to supply a fire alarm system as part of that article. So no need to double dip and double down on that, in my opinion. But we could somewhere in 200. So Yummy Fudge says somewhere in 200. You're talking chapter 2? Because it wouldn't make sense for 200. You're talking somewhere in chapter 2. You know, that's a good point. Because to your point, there should be it's a branch circuit. And if maybe you're right. You know what, Yummy Fudge? Man. I got the wheels going because here's my wheels. Here's what I'm thinking. Because there are branch circuit requirements in chapter 7. But what you should be requiring in 210, it should say, if you're installing a fire alarm system, you should be pulling an individual branch circuit, because here's my problems. And in fact, I read this when I was looking at the exception. It says, remember in 210.8, what was the section? Oh man, oh day. I can't stand when I can't remember these references. 760.41. So if I go to 760.41, what they should have said there, and it's probably because they're not branch circuit people, in 760.41b, it says fire alarm company shall supply no other loads, and what they should say is it should be an individual branch circuit. When you say an individual branch circuit supplying the fire alarm system, that means something to someone who understands Article 210. So to your point, Yummy Fudge, I think you might be onto something there. You also are asking, is there an exception for fire alarms related to AFCI? So for fire alarms, the 760.41 for non-power limited fire alarms, that's in part 2, and then the other one was one something that's in a different area, but same basic language. It says ground fault or arc fault. I don't believe we had anything in 210.12. I'm gonna double check to see if there was an exception in 210.12. There are informational notes. Yeah, look, see, here's what it says. Look, see. It says in 210.12, it says AFCI protection shall not be required for an individual branch circuit. That's the language that should have been back there in 760. But they're outside of their purview, in my opinion, when they start talking about branch circuits. That should be in 210. Individual branch circuits supplying a fire alarm system installed in accordance with 760.41b and 121b. The branch circuit shall be installed in a metal raceway. So this requires it to be in a metal raceway, metal auxiliary gutter, steel armored cable. This is why we could not remove that exception from 210.12, because those branch circuit protective requirements are not back there in 760. So I'm buying what you're selling, Yummy Fudge, in regard to making something in 210 for, I think it should be in 210, branch circuits that supply burglar alarm systems and branch circuits that supply fire alarm systems, and put the requirements in. And you would say in 210 that if it's a fire alarm system in any of the rooms that are covered in 210.12, it needs to be installed in those raceways. And you would say it would have to be on an individual branch circuit, and then it would not be GFCI protected. Now it's all in 210. I like what you're thinking. I was taught whole word reading. I did not learn phonics until I was 28. Could not sound out words. Really? Here's my thought on that. I was taught the phonics thing early, to phonetically try to spell things, which I'm not sure if that was good or bad. Dan, all right. Then welcome to the team, Dan. I think we might be talking apples and oranges, where 760 applies to public access occupancies, where 210.8a is obviously talking about dwelling unit integrated security. Ooh, Dan. Dan has to come in with the coup de grace. Let's go back and look at chapter 7 for 760. Ooh la la. 760 scope says this article covers installation of wiring and equipment of fire alarm systems, including all circuits controlled and powered by the fire alarm system. Doesn't say anything about a structure. Doesn't say anything about public access occupancies. It just says fire alarm systems. Now that's in the scope. So maybe, Dan, there's another section down below. There are some definitions. Other articles. Let's keep going. Cable routing, all this good. Access to electrical equipment behind panels. Access to electrical equipment shall not be denied by an accumulation of conductors. All right, so Dan, I don't see anything in 760 that focuses it on a specific occupancy type, like a commercial building. So there's non-power limited. There's non-power limited, and then there is power limited. NPLFA and PLFA. So, Dan, I'm not seeing anything in Article 760 that says it would not apply if you put a fire alarm system in a resident. Now, I would argue a fire alarm system in a residential dwelling unit is probably non-existent. I'm not going to say non-existent. Did I say non-existent? I don't believe I said non-existent. I don't know what you heard, and you won't be able to play the video back because I'm just going to delete it. I agree with you. So if you need a clear distinction between the occupancy types, Dan, I think that you would have to say 760 applies to a specific occupancy type, but I don't see anything in 760 that says it doesn't apply to a residential dwelling unit at all. So if I just look at the scope and I look at through Article 760, so now you might say, when have you ever seen an Article 760 system in a single family dwelling unit? That would be fair. We put smoke detectors and things like that in, but we don't put fire alarm systems. Now we'll put a burglar alarm system in, but it's not called a burglar alarm system. It's called a security system, right? But there's not an article. There's no NEC requirements around security systems in the National Electrical Code. There is a separate NFPA document, but there's nothing in the National Electrical Code that talks about security systems. Yummy Fudge says, I just think should be a system. I just think should be a system as in the whole house wired in a specific way using positive language. So this is a whole nother area of the discussion of exceptions. I agree with you that if you can take an exception and write it in positive language, you're better off. Where, a good example of where we did that, Mr. Fudge, 210.12. We did that in 210.12 with the options. In 210.12a, remember the exceptions were metal raceways and where listed metal metallic conduit type cased in concrete. Those were and used to be listed as exceptions. We converted that to positive text. So I like positive text in the National Electrical Code more so than exceptions. I think it's clearer that way. And clarity is always good, unless you don't like what it says. We do have the exceptions for the fire alarm systems, but if we created something, to your point, in 210, this would be a good public input for next cycle, Yummy Fudge. Let me know if you want to work on it. I'd love to work on it with you because I think it makes a lot of sense. I think back in chapters 5 through 7, we have branch circuit requirements that shouldn't be there. It should be in 210. If it's a branch circuit, it should be in 210. And we can write it in positive language and get rid of some of these exceptions. Uh-oh. Oops. Yes, chapter 2. Thank you. I knew that's what you meant. More positive language and less exceptions makes code more. Oh, man, we think alike. Are you sure you're not Tom Dimitrovich? Because maybe that's me in a different life. Maybe it's in the future, or maybe it's a future me that came back. I don't know, but we're thinking too much alike. And I'm not a big fudge liker. It's too sweet. To me, like chocolate fudge is way too dense and too sweet. Laurel. Hey, Laurel's jumping in. Add it to 210. Yeah. So Laurel's liking it. 210.8a 5 exception. 210. Now, are you talking Laurel? 210.8a. Yeah, that's the A5. That's the exception to 5 in basements. And so now the other thing we did in the 2023 code, we removed, what did we remove? We removed something. We realized that the exceptions, because they were under the specific areas, like outdoors, etc., and rooftops, all that, we moved them to the bottom and we made them more generic because they weren't dependent upon a location, right? So the fire alarm system, now burglar alarm system, we changed it from burglar alarm to security to align with how other NFPA documents. And that added some clarity because it's like, well, when I think of a burglar alarm system, I think of the Hamburglar. And then when I think of the Hamburglar, I think of the Hamburglar stealing burgers. And then when I think about hamburgers, then I get hungry, and I should not get hungry reading the National Electrical Code. So we had to get rid of burglar. So we did. We called it security. So, and then we had all these exceptions for the different areas. We got rid of all of that. Very good point. Read the informational note. Read the informational note in 760. You know what? I knew. I didn't read it. And I saw it was a really long informational note. All right, so here's the informational note in 760. Because Dan, the man, is calling me out. All right. I'm reading the informational note in 760. Fire alarm systems include fire detection and alarm notification, guards tour, sprinkler water flow, and sprinkler supervisory systems. Remember, the building code is requiring sprinkler systems inside of dwelling units. Just saying. Circuits controlled and powered by the fire alarm system include circuits for the control of building systems safety functions, elevator capture, elevator shutdown, door release, smoke doors, and damper control, fire doors and damper control, and fan shutdown, but only where these circuits are powered by and controlled by the fire alarm system. For further information on the installation and monitoring for integrity, so here's my thought process, Dan. Sprinkler systems, there is a dwelling unit requirement now. I believe it's in the building code, or is it the fire code? Where are the sprinklers? Here's what we do. Let me show you how we do. So I'm going to go to NFPA link, and I'm going to type the word sprinkler, SPRINKLER. See, here's the problem. When I think of sprinkler, I get reminded with so I see an NFPA 25 reference, 1410. I thought it would be an NFPA 1. Huh. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, where it is. Maybe I thought it would be in 5000. Maybe it's in the building code. I'm not sure. I thought, does anybody out there know which building code requires dwelling units to have sprinklers? Or am I thinking of that they wish they did include sprinklers? I don't know. I can't remember. But in any case, so there's a Chapter 8 in NFPA 130 or NFPA 13D. That talks about locations. What is NFPA 13D? Standard for the installation of sprinkler systems in 1 and 2 family dwellings and manufactured homes. So I know we have a standard for how to install those. And then if you have a sprinkler system in your home, you would be required to have these control systems, which would fall under 760. So I don't know, Dan. Yummy Fudge says, I can't see that informational note. Note 1 is missing, starts at 2. Yummy Fudge, get your NFPA link. It's in mine. I see note 1. Note 2 just says class 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I'm looking in the 2020 code. Oh, let me go to the 2023 open and background. Let me go to the 2023 code and make sure they didn't remove something. 760. Fire alarm systems. Oh, it's still there. So the informational note number 1 is still there in the 2023 edition. What is this? Freddie B. DA is found in single occupancy dwelling units. Rare, but rare. Yeah, it is rare. DA. District Attorney. DA. What's DA? Data alarm or FA? Oh, FA. Jefe. You know, I mean, I'm in Colombia, so Jefe means boss. Jefa is a female boss. Jefe is a male boss. So Freddie B is a Jefe. Informational note number 1, fire alarm systems include fire detection and fire alarm notification, guards tour. I don't know what a guards tour is. I mean, do we take guards on tours? Circuits controlled by power and fire alarm system, including circuits for the control of building system safety functions, elevator capture, elevator shutdown. Yep. And I think you'll find sprinklers in there too, Dan. Smoke doors, door release, fan shut, but only where there's powered by, controlled by the fire alarm system. So I think if you had a sprinkled home, so if chapters 5 through 7 can modify 1 through 4, then why would anything in chapter 2 be off limits? I don't disagree with you. Nothing. Yeah. everything in chapter 2 would be off. Nothing in chapter 2 would be off limits. What I'm saying though is, Dan, I think that I know panel 2 knows branch circuits. And if it's a branch circuit requirement, putting the requirements in chapter 2 would add some clarity, because then the proper terminology would be used. Because I don't believe that they're using, when they say shall have no other loads and whatnot, they should be saying an individual branch circuit, things like that, little details. But I'm okay with that. Sprinklers are an NFPA 100. NFPA, thank you. You know what, Laurel? What would I do without you, babe? Where would I be? Don't know where I'd be. You're not just another YouTube viewer. You're everything to me. So if I go to NFPA 100, how do you say 100 in Espanol? View all publications. I'm going to type in 100. This is the value of, wait a second, 1,000. You got to be 1,000, not an NFPA 100, right? Let me look for sprinkler. NFPA 100? You sure it's 100? I'm going to find 100. For some reason, I'm not seeing a 100. I see a 1,000. And then when I look at 1,000, I don't know. Yummy fudge. Love the lag it has from chat to text, what we see in the feed. Yeah, I know. Building codes. And I'm going down through the list too. Building code has a requirement related to height and number of occupancies. Oh, and Felix Sandoval, where are you at, buddy? Cien. Where are you at, Felix? I'm in Bogota. We should be close. We got to get together. NFPA 101 life safety code. That has the fire sprinklers. All right. Now, here's the question. NFPA 101. So if I go to all publications and I type in 101, return, life safety code, and means of egress, interior, existing assemblies, new detection, correctional. Let's look at chapter 24. There are general requirements. Let's do a search for sprinkler. There it is. The sprinkler system referred to in 24221. Oh, there we go. All right, so you have number and types of egress. Excuse me. I had a lot of drainage. I had an allergy attack on my last flight. All right, so NFPA 101 is the sprinkler. Excellent. Cien is 100. So cien y uno? Cien y uno is 101? Tell me, Felix, cien y uno? I don't know if that's it. NFPA 13D for 1 and 2 family dwelling units. There's Dan. NFPA 1 is the fire code. Yep. There is quite a lag. Sorry about that. You know what it might be? I'm slowly going down through, so it might not be as slow of a lag as you're thinking. All right. So Felix says he's in Barranquilla tomorrow. I hope to meet. Yes. Felix. Can't wait. Awesome. All right. NFPA 101, Article 9.7.1. Thank you, Freddie B. Okay. Laurel says 101. Muy bien. Gracias. Gracias, señorita Laurel. 101. Sí, muy bueno. Gracias, Felix. All right. So what we know is we can have exceptions. And when we deleted the exception in 210.8a and we moved some around, That doesn't mean you now have to GFCI protect those circuits. It just means you've got to understand the full breadth of the code. And then we also know that some exceptions can be written into positive language. And whenever we can do that, it improves the usability of the code. Now, my advice, whenever you look at some of these, if your goal is to try to do that, let's say that you say, I would love to rewrite these exceptions into positive language. Here's my suggestion. Take your language and get it to some of the I just read David Englehart's note, International Residential Code, and I was going to say, get it to some code panel members. And I said, get it to some that, what they call that? That's like squirrel. So get it to some code panel members, because here's my gut tells me. There is a desire to say no in some cases. I don't know if it's the not designed here or not my idea concept or whatnot. There could be some of that going on. I don't know. But I think that collaboration is really important, because what you don't want to do is change the meaning. So if you have the desire, if you look at some of the exceptions and you say, I'm going to put this in positive text, and you want to rewrite some things, collaborate, talk, get together with some other individuals involved with that code panel or other code panels, right? So you all know me, and if you're an IAEI member, you have access to all of the code panel members from IAEI, so reach out to all of them as well. Find your individual people that are on the code panels, and then there's a nice tool as part of your IAEI membership. You can connect with people and communicate through the IAEI portal. Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother great avenue. But very important that we communicate to make sure that the language that we come up with is doesn't change the meaning, if you get my drift. All right. Haven't you heard ADHD is an asset in adults? I'm right there with you. Thank you, Dan. I don't know what it is. I call it one of my squirrel moments, but I saw this note from David Engelhardt. The International Residential Building Code, section R309.2, requires sprinklers in 1 and 2 family dwellings. Now, that is when the sevens, in my opinion. Now, I have not installed a residential sprinkled system, but that's an area where you say, okay, now you might be getting into this fire alarm system, and you might have a controller that controls the water. I don't know anything about sprinklers. All I know is do not hang a coat hanger from one of those sprinkler heads. Okay, I know that for a fact. I see it in hotels. Speaking of hotels, I was at the Western section. Was it Western section last week? Yeah. I was at the Western section, and in my hotel room, my GFCI was broke. It was providing power, but the push to test button, and I left and I forgot to get a video. I did leave a sticky to the hotel staff asking them to replace it. So in any case, if you have one of those systems, you might be into a 760 for a dwelling unit. All right, so let's get back to exceptions. Now, today is Tuesday. Man, my room is warm. and it won't go lower than 22. It's at 23 degrees Celsius. What is 23 degrees Celsius? Is that like 73 or 74 degrees? It's warm in here. It's blowing air, but it's warm. Freddie B, don't use a hairdryer to dry sheetrock, mud around sprinkler head. Ooh, that would be ungood too. Yeah. Jeez, oh man. All right, so let's get back to, I'm going to use the 2023 National Electrical Code. I'm in the 2023 code. Let's go back to 210.8. It's getting warmer in my room. How much time we got left? Well, we got about 10 minutes. All right. So one of the things we did, so we moved the exceptions. You'll notice in the 2023 code, we moved the exceptions to the bottom of the list of areas in A and in B. And honestly, when we were first doing it, I think we made the argument, yeah, we did. We were following the style manual that says the exception should be immediately after. So we made the move to move them down, and it was in my task group to move them all down to the bottom. But here's what that did. That caused us to ask the question. We asked a very important question during this entire process. We said, does this exception only apply to this area? And then we realized that those exceptions were for things like fire alarm systems or security systems. And it doesn't matter what room you're in. It doesn't matter where you put the security system. If there is a requirement for a GFCI protection of the receptacle where you're going to plug that in, it makes sense to not tie it to a specific room. And I feel sorry for all these years for those people who live in Texas and places where you don't have basements. They could never take an exception in 210.8 for this security system or the fire alarm system, unless it was in the basement, which they didn't have. So in any case, we moved the exceptions to the bottom, and I think that added some clarity, and it expanded the exceptions appropriately, right? So we had the exceptions now down. There's 6 exceptions in B, and there are 4 exceptions in A, which I don't even know how you would rewrite these in positive text. Maybe like for the, I don't know. I think it would be hard to rewrite these as positive text. If we now, another area, well, I'm not going to bring that up. Oh, Ryan Jackson in the house. Greetings and salutations. Good to see you, and it was great to see Ryan back at the Western section. Did a great job on opacity and all that jazz. So thank you for joining, Ryan. And all that, Yummy Fudge is out of Utah too. So Yummy Fudge and Ryan are not one and the same. Ryan Jackson, I live 15 miles from IPP. Can see it from his backyard. All right, so we got some dialogue going on between the group. So that's what it's all about, making connections and building relationships. All right. So here we go. Fred, exception 2 only references security systems. No. Okay, so this came up. This was the motivating factor. So the email that I got, and so did my good friend Nihad El-Sharif, we removed the fire alarm system from the exceptions because it's already included in 760. So I think some people now think that if you have a receptacle in your basement or a receptacle in your laundry, and you have a fire alarm system, that you don't need GFCI, or that you need GFCI in the receptacle. But that's not the case, because 760 says you shall not put it on a receptacle. But to this discussion's point and to the email, when we do that, we're causing confusion. So we followed the rules, and we removed it here because it's already required, it's already prohibited there. But based on this discussion, and I liked Yummy Fudge's concept of putting some branch circuit requirements in Chapter 2 for those systems, because we're in 210 for branch circuits, and the fire alarm should cover fire alarms, not the branch circuits. And if there are specific branch circuit requirements, like if you need to be on an individual branch circuit for a fire alarm system, that needs to be in Chapter 2. So I look forward to having that discussion for next cycle on how do we clean up these discrepancies and keep things, in their right lanes, so to speak. I liked it. There was somebody who was talking something, and they said, "Stay in your lane." I like that. I like that statement. Stay in your lane. If you're a plumber, you plumb. Don't start working electrical. If you are Article 760 dealing with fire alarm systems, stay in your lane. I like that concept. Now, what we could not remove in Exception 2 was the burglar alarm system, which now we more appropriately call a security system. The NEC does not have an article that covers security systems. So we left the exception in 210.8A, and I think we have it in B too. Yes. No, do we have it in B? It should be in B. You know what? We don't have an exception in B for security systems. I wonder why that is. So we have an exception in A, a receptacle supplying only a permanently installed premises security system shall be permitted to omit. It's permitted to omit. It's not required to omit GFCI, because there's nothing in the security system NFPA reference that says it's prohibited. But we don't have it in B for other than dwelling units. We got rooftops, we have snow melting, we have fixed and stationary appliances. That's the in heavy industrial. We have receptacles or cord and plug connected fixed stationary appliances. We have receptacles located in patient bed locations. We have listed weight support ceiling. We don't have anything for security systems in B. Wonder why that is. I never really thought about that. So I think, but in any case, we have it for 1 and 2 family dwelling units. We have it for dwelling units. That's interesting. Wonder why that is. So in any case, we needed to keep the exception for the security system because there's nothing in the NEC that I would conflict with, right, or have a correlation issue with. And if you go to the NFPA reference for security systems, which is security systems, This is the beauty of NFPA Link. Select publications. There it is, NFPA 730. Does that make sense? NFPA 730 is the Guide for Premises Security. I guess it is. Security Perimeters, Crime, Security Systems, Chapter 9. Let's search Chapter 9 for GFCIs. Yep. GFC. I want to go to the G. Nothing in there for GFCIs. So now Ryan says, I think it would be quite easy to locate a security system in an area that doesn't require GFCI and other than dwellings. Not so easy in a house. Yeah, that could be one of the reasons. But then the reason is, the thought process is why? Why would you do that? Why would you have to go through those steps? If there's, I don't know. I get it. Yummy Fudge says B would be most likely place to see the fire alarm system versus smoke alarm. It's exactly right, Fred. But to Ryan's point, you could probably find an area inside of a commercial building that doesn't have a GFCI requirement. So that might be the reason why we didn't put it in B. I'm okay with not putting it in B, but it is, what it shall be. All right. So we moved all the exceptions down, and we left the informational note in 210.8a to reference 760.41b and 761.21b for power supply requirements for fire alarm systems. So that's still there. And in 210.12, we've maintained the exception for the individual branch circuit supplying a fire alarm system because we have additional requirements, which makes sense. See, this is why it would make more sense to put that branch circuit requirement into 10, because we could get rid of the exception for AFCIs if it was written as positive text saying, look, branch circuit requirements for security systems, branch circuit requirements for fire alarm systems. In the case of 210.12, if you're putting a fire alarm system in a room, in a dwelling unit that requires AFCI protection, you can omit that, but you need to follow all of these other rules with regard to the branch circuit. And we could put in the requirements that it has to be an individual branch circuit, which brings in other items. So I'm Yummy Fudge. I'm buying what you're selling, and I like that concept. And look, we got Robert from Omaha is coming into the picture. Education power, define area. Ooh. I'll tell you what, we just had this discussion on a task group for 210. Where is it? Where is it? Because was it receptacle outlets? It wasn't 210. It was 210. Where we got into this, there's a list. Oh man, I'm going to find it. But we got into the discussion, Robert, because the language said dormitories, and it had areas of dormitory units. And I'm trying to think, I think it was in 230. It was in 230. It wasn't even in 210. It was 230. And I think it had to do with, oh man, areas. Let me search for dormitory, DORM, the power of NFPA link at your fingertips. Dormitory. 230.67. It was surge protection. So we got into this discussion, Robert. It says All services supplying the following occupancies shall be provided with a surge-protected device: dwelling units, dormitory units, guest rooms and guest suites of hotels and motels, areas of nursing homes and limited care facilities. So in the first draft for the 2026 code, we said areas of guest rooms and guest suites at hotels and motels and dormitories. Well, areas of, what is areas? That is that's an interesting discussion. We had an interesting discussion on that was a panel 10. I've seen BA and FA systems, burglar alarm systems, and fire alarm systems installed in closets and laundry rooms. Absolutely, David. Absolutely. And now you have the exceptions. 120.12b. Ryan says the scope of Article 100 tells us that commonly defined general terms are not included in Article 100 unless the NEC has a different meaning than found in the dictionary area. Yep, Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, the 12th edition, right? 210.12b. Yes, yummy fudge. C for dorms. Ooh, C for dorms. Yes. 210.12. 210.12c. That's another one for dormitories. So that's the dormitory units, and we have defined dormitories, and I think we got rid of the term dormitory units. But you would have to go back to Webster to understand what an area is. I agree with you, Mr. Jackson in the house. Freddie B, same question. Same question for what is an area related to laundry area. So we had this discussion. Oh my goodness. Jeez. We had this discussion, Fred, on panel 2. So one of the areas of points of debate was around, let's say I take a washer and a dryer and I put it in an area of a room inside my home that does not currently require GFCI. And I just put it on the wall. Does the entire room become the laundry area? Is the laundry area defined as within 6 feet, within 8 feet? What is the laundry area when it's just sitting on a wall in an open room? Is the entire room the laundry area? And that room could be could be 14 foot by 20 foot, right? So what is a laundry area? And I remember someone told me when they were asked the question about what is pornography, and they said, I don't know, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. I think that applies to when we start using these terms, area. In some cases, it can be hard to identify what the area is. So I don't disagree with you. That can be clothes closet or storage closet. Yeah, what do we call those areas, right? So in any case, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and germs, I enjoyed our discussion today on exceptions. We migrated into a few other areas, which is not a bad thing. It is exceedingly getting warmer and warmer in my room, probably because for some reason I may not have the air conditioning on. I just have the fan on. Let's see what the temperature is. It's 24 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that means in Fahrenheit, but it's not cool. The vague references doesn't help with it. Yes, Fred, vague references, clarity, clarity, clarity. We're having that discussion right now on panel 10. There are individuals who say, look, this is what we use in if you look at 230.82, where we have what permission to put things on the line side of the service disconnect. There are some in the industry that say anything on the line side of the service disconnect is not counted as one of the 6. Service disconnecting means. And I just scratch my head because I say, how can that be? If I disconnect service conductors and it's on the line side of the service disconnect, it's a service disconnect. How, unless it's in 230.71, you can't use what's in 230.82b or 230.82 as where it just says this is what can be placed on the line side of the service disconnect, as saying those service, if there's a service disconnect, if there's a disconnect, if you have a disconnect on the line side of a service disconnect, guess what? It's a service disconnect. If you don't want to count it as one of the 6, it needs to be in 230.71. We're having that debate right now. So we'll see where how that all falls out. But we're having some fun working on 2026 code changes. And we had a good time here. Oh, yummy fudge. It is 73 degrees in my room right now. That's why it's getting warmer and warmer. I've got to get it cooler and cooler. So somehow I got to work that controller over there on that wall to figure out how to turn on the air or open up a window. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I had a great time. I appreciate all the dialogue. I hope you did too. And Colombian session, as usual. Thank you, sir. And remember, have a, where's it at? Where's it at? There it is. This was in my room when I got in. Juan Valdez. Look at these. Huh? Bobby Joe is going to love these. Taking those home. And I've got a good book to read. Where's my book? I have a book. Oh, here it is. There's the book. I've got a good book to read from a really good author. So, yes, a award winner, Nobel Prize winner, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So, good coffee. I'm going to be drinking coffee out going out to Yin Yang, so I'm going to be talking 1,000 miles a minute, and nobody here is going to understand me because I can't speak Espanol as fast as I can speak English. And when I'm hyped up on coffee, forget about it. Fred, thank you. Yummy Fudge, thank you for joining in. Cheers, Ryan Jackson, Felix Sandoval. I hope to see you here in Colombia. And thought I didn't like, I said Yummy Fudge. So no, see, here's the thing. I like chocolate. I don't like fudge. All right. Fudge to me it's like so dense. If I'll eat fudge, but it has to have lots of nuts in it. And I can only have I can eat chocolate out, I can just eat a bar of chocolate, but fudge, man, very, very, very sweet. It's very sweet, very rich. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for what all of you do for the electrical safety and the electrical. Yeah, squirrel. I have my squirrel moment. And the electrical industry. Take care. Stay safe. We will see you next week live, probably from Weird and West by God, Virginia. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. God bless. And please stay healthy. See you next week.